Hello again, another edition of the Grappling Bulletin podcast. Myself, Howell, joined today. It's just me and Corey. There's no Chase today. He's off. He's busy, right?
Yeah, busy doing things.
Got things to do. We're 2 weeks out from the World Championships. There's a lot to do. We are 2 weeks out from the World Championships. Let me say that one more time. We're almost there, guys. It's been 2.5 years since the last IBJGF Worlds, and that feels like an eternity ago, right?
Yeah, incredible how long it's been. It feels like this is the first Worlds ever, right? It feels like it's really just coming back. And yeah, feeling fresh.
We had a moment there, actually, just kind of while we were getting ready for the show, right? We were putting together kind of like, our list of videos and topics and stuff that we like to talk about every week here in the Grappling Bulletin. And we actually had the results for the 2019 Worlds up because we were talking about, remember this guy, remember that guy? And it is hilarious. It is actually hilarious. It's mind-blowing to see that so much time has passed that people who are winning the purple belt divisions in 2019 at the World Championships are now literally contenders to take the black belt title here. And, it's almost a little bit tough to say because these guys, they skipped out on a big part of their career, which would have been competing as brown belts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the moment that people get to define where they're going to stand as a black belt. Look at Victor Hugo, who won Worlds as a brown belt 2019. We haven't seen him compete in the World Championships as a black belt yet.
In a gi world champion, true.
Right.
Yeah, of course, no gi world champion, but it's not the same, It's not the same. As much as no gi world champion is such a cool thing, Worlds is Worlds. And there's a lot to talk about today when it comes to Worlds. So you can see, look at the sidebar. Look at the sidebar over here, okay? We got Worlds. We're going to talk about Dream Art. We're going to talk about Dante, Lachlan, Giles, the whole call-out thing of Grapple Fest. There's ADCC news. There's tons of news coming through, but we're really going to spend some time talking about Worlds because there's a lot to do. And I think that the biggest news for me of the recent, this came about last week. We found this out. This is so cool. I'm so excited to say this, but Leandro Lee is competing at the 2021 IBJGF World Championships. And the big news is that he has dropped weight classes. He's going back to the medium heavyweight division. And this is wild, man. This is absolutely wild because Leandro, he is a 7-time IBJJF world champion. And he has won titles in the lightweight, middleweight, medium heavyweight, gold medal heavyweight, and the absolute gold medal, okay? But the last time that we saw him compete as a medium heavyweight was all the way back in 2016.
Yeesh.
That feels like a long time ago.
It was in Leandro years, a very long time ago. It seems like it's a different evolution of Leandro. We really could have set prop bets on where Leandro was going to end up, right? Because it's every Leandro just a different animal.
Pull up this photo, please. We put a little comparison photo of Leandro. That is Leandro at the 2016 IBJJF World Championships on the left. And there on the right, 3 years later at the IBJJF Pan Championships, is Leandro competing in the heavyweight division that year. And you can see the physical change that he underwent. But bear in mind, Leandro never in his career took either nutrition or strength conditioning seriously. Didn't pay it any mind whatsoever until late 2016, because that was the year that he did the Triple Crown. And we have a documentary about this on FloGrappling that he went and he won the 3 Copa Podio titles back to back. He won the lightweight, the middleweight, and the heavyweight titles all in 1 year, moving up steadily through the weight classes. And after that period of putting on weight, he's like, I like this, and he's stuck around. But I think that this is a big question, isn't it, Corey? It is, what do you think it is that has inspired Leandro to go back to that weight class that he had so much success?
In the last maybe year or so of super fights, he's been kind of hanging out around that 88 kilogram territory. So maybe he feels good there. Maybe he's seen a lot of success. He's finished a lot of matches in that territory while he's been there. So maybe it's a feeling. Who knows? I mean, you can only really tell by asking him, right?
That's a great question, and we will be asking him because myself and Chase, we're going to be heading to New York next week, and we're going to be hitting up the Unity training camp. We're going to go and see a little bit of their preparation for the Worlds. And man, everybody remembers that notorious video on our YouTube channel, right? the Unity training camp for Worlds a few years ago, Road to Worlds. I think it was 2018, 2019. I forget, man. It's so long ago. But I'm not promising that we're going to come out of it with any shower footage, but that's the thing that everybody remembers about the Unity Worlds training camp, was it is so intense, so hardcore that people were showering in their gi in between rounds and then going back onto the mat and training. You ever went to the old Unity?
Just once in the 13th floor, I think, near Madison. But yeah, that room got hot real quick, right? It was.
Sweatbox, man, is a sauna. Yeah,
the intensity of the training plus just the area, where it was not hard to get in shape very quick in that room.
Yeah. Now, of course, Unity is down. It's near kind of Chelsea, sort of Union Square area. It's right there in the middle of Manhattan, but they've got a nice, huge facility. Or we've been there many times. You look at any of the Unity videos over the last couple of years, since like 2019, and you'll see beautiful facility under the supervision of Murgali Santana. And I feel that Leandro, that he's decamped and he's been in New York, I believe, since late October. The word is that he's really serious about winning Worlds this year. And the word is that he decided to do his training camp at Unity to help whip himself into shape. Because, of course, he has a great relationship with Murgali Santana. They go back many, many years. They're all kind of like Barboza lineage, of course. That Murgali Santana got his black belt from Barboza in Sao Paulo. And of course, Leandro came up under Cicero Costa, who was a Barboza black belt himself. So they've been very, very tight for many years, and that friendship continues. But of course, they're not the only people training there, right? Who else we got at Unity?
I mean, it's stacked from Devontae Johnson, Jefferson Guarzi, Maisa Basto, Diego Pato, who really, for my money, could win light featherweight this year.
Levi Jones-Leary, Taliesin Suarez is in town, Jonas Andrade. Man, there's a lot of big names going to be training at Unity. So we're going to catch up with all of them, but I am very intrigued indeed to find out exactly what's going on in Leandro's head and how he's feeling coming into this Worlds. This is a big year for him. He could be going for his 8th, if he does the absolutes well, possibly 9th world title, which is incredible. That would put him up there among the very, very best ever. And we were looking at the world titles, right? And it's interesting that there's two 7-time world champions. There's Leandro and there is Shanji Hibero. And then you look, there are no 8 or 9-time world champions. There are 2 10-time world champions, Bruno Malfacini and Roger Gracie, and then Marcus Buchecha Almeida is a 13-time world champion. So right now, Leandro Lo is already in the top 5 most successful IBJJF World Championship competitors of all time. How much further could he elevate that position a couple of weeks from now?
Yeah, he could narrow himself down into the best 4 to ever do it, depending on some other news maybe coming up from the rest of the guys out there.
Yeah, let's see how that goes. Personally, very excited for the news that Leandro's coming back. One of the best showmen in jiu-jitsu. I think everybody loves Leandro Lo. Huge personality, a bit of a legend, and we're very excited to see him back in action here at the Worlds. So, speaking of Worlds, we have many questions going into Worlds. And I think that we should just kick off a little debate right now. Let's just posit 3 questions going into the IBJJF World Championships. And as we're discussing these questions, I'd like to play this wonderful highlight video that we made a few years ago called The Spirit of BJJ. It's possibly one of the greatest IBJJF World Championship highlights ever made by our killer video maker, Reed Connell. And this, unfortunately, is not going to be at the Pyramid this year. This is one of the most iconic things about the World Championships. It was always held at the Pyramid, the Walter Pyramid in Long Beach, California. It's at the Anaheim Convention Center, which in itself is a pretty cool venue and has a pretty solid grappling history now, having been the location for the 2019 ADCC World Championships. But man, Worlds, there is something special about Worlds. It's something different, but we've got some questions coming into it this year, right? A lot of questions. Will X person, Y person, Z person register and compete at Worlds? And I got 4 names I'm going to throw at you. Number 1, will Mikey Musumeci do Worlds? What do you think, Corey?
If he slides in, it'd be kind of a big question where he slides in, right? We've seen him do Rooster, we've seen him do light feather. I could even see him maybe going up to feather. I think he'll slide in there, right? As much as Mikey said that he's kind of bit the no-gi bullet and he's on the side of just sticking to no-gi. I think there's something about winning a potentially fourth world title. It just starts to call to people that are winners like that, right?
But I mean, Mikey, he's been so all in on all in on no-gi this year, right? He told us that for his first Who's Number One super fight, he didn't really train no-gi at all. He just turned up and he won. But then he's like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And he went all in on no-gi, and he said that he's been training pretty much entirely no-gi, exclusively no-gi, for the majority of this year. How much time does Mikey need to get back into the gi groove and then go and be competitive at Worlds?
That's a good question, specifically because his guard game is so. It's not identical, right? Because he plays this very leg lock oriented game in no-gi.
True.
But it's similar enough. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe, we've talked about heel hook Mikey. What about knee bar Mikey or like Aoki lock Mikey coming out?
Oh, yeah. Don't sleep him. He has one of the fastest World Championship final submissions ever, with that footlock that he caught in 2019. So, yeah, leg lock Mikey's no joke. Okay, who else? Let's see. Big question for me is whether we'll see somebody like Lucas Lepri. Mm-hmm. So Lucas Lepri, man, 6-time world champion, having won so many titles in a very storied career. But considering the age and the stage of the career that he's at, for me, there's a huge question mark hanging over whether Lucas will compete. And I think that if you look at his Instagram, which is not like a great way of, judging somebody's intentions or motivations, but he's been teasing a lot of stuff about Worlds, it seems, over the last couple of weeks. But at the same time, he's an academy owner. He's out there in North Carolina. He has a young family. He's taking care of them. He's getting older. He's in his mid to late 30s. He's still a phenomenal athlete. However, he is, entering a different phase in his life, and that might not be the best phase in which to go for a 7th IBJJF World Gold Medal. So, big question for me over Lucas, but I don't know, if Fabio Gurgel picks up the phone and is like, hey, Lucas, we need you. Alliance needs you. Let's go. I wouldn't be surprised to see him enter.
Yeah, I think all he needs is marching orders, but I would not be surprised not to see him there. I think that if anything, not having a 2020 World Championship gave him a graceful exit. Right, and that there's no, okay, now it's time to stop. It has stopped, and now you have to just continue stopping.
Great point. Gabriel Arges, 2-time IBJJF world champion. In my mind, I actually consider him a 3-time because he closed out in 2016 with Otavio. But Gabriel Arges, what do you think?
We haven't seen much of Gabriel in quite a while. I can't remember the last time that I saw him compete in IBJJF format. He's, I think for me, one of the best competitors at middleweight if we do see him.
Yeah.
But it's I think the middleweight division is stacked with or without him.
What about Kennedy Maciel? Like, he's a big question mark for me as well, because Kennedy has another guy who we haven't seen him in the gi for a very long time. He's been competing almost exclusively no gi, and he's only been posting about no gi as well. So, I don't know. I'd love to see Cabrini Jr. in the mix. He never got to show us what he's really made of in the gi as a black belt at Worlds, because in 2019 he won his first match. Maybe 2, I'm forgetting now, but he definitely won at least 1. But then he had to basically bow out because one of his teammates, he decided to kind of let him pass in the Featherweight Division. That was Isaac Duerdeline, one of his teammates stroke training partners. So big question for me as to whether Kennedy will turn up or whether whether his focus is elsewhere, possibly on no-gi and ADCC coming up next year. Let's see. But yeah, I'm just not sure about him. Here's a question for you. Do we think that anybody who's currently registered will potentially change weight classes?
There's kind of a musical chairs that always happens at major tournaments, right?
I always feel like it's a little bit of strategy as well, right?
For sure. And
a little bit of misdirection.
There's a little bit of maybe misdirection, and I think a lot of it might be, taking a look at the field, estimating what seed you might get, and thinking I have a better chance up there or down there.
Yeah, good point.
So there is, I'm sure a lot of athletes will change weight, but the big question is the significant changes, right? So I think, for example, we talked about Leandro. He's staying in medium heavy as far as I'm concerned. But
it's not a diversionary tactic. That's his choice. That's what he's made. Yeah. And then there are definitely some guys though that we could see them flip between, let's say, light feather and feather, or light and middle. Those are the kind of categories that people are kind of inclined to change. That certain categories, it's probably unlikely that we'll see any big changes. Right.
I'm interested in watching what's happening at heavy, super heavy, ultra heavy.
True.
I'm seeing if there's a little bit of dancing there between maybe somebody like Kaynan Duarte or even Felipe Pena.
It can happen as well. Yeah, Felipe Pena signed up at super heavyweight, which is very interesting. But it can happen as well, can't it? That sometimes teammates will register in a category, but then as they get closer to the dates, they kind of figure out, okay, well, you're going to take this one, and I'm going to move to this division, so that we're not going to close out, or we wouldn't meet if they're, depending on how you say the seed is, if they get put against each other in an earlier round, then they'll split divisions between them. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Now here's a big question as well. There aren't that many big name veterans, I feel, signed up for Worlds so far this year, although there are a couple of very notable ones. Bruno Malfacini is in at Roosterweight. He is a very accomplished veteran grappler, 10-time world champion. We also have Roberto Cyborg signed up at Ultra Heavyweight. Again, a veteran grappler, although, interesting point, Cyborg never won Worlds in the gi. Astonishing. Then, of course, there's Leandro as well. Leandro, who's in at medium heavyweight, which is a very, notable kind of inclusion in that division. But do we feel that this 2.5-year layoff has affected maybe the older guys, the more well-known generation of grapplers, the more established guys, the legends, let's say? Do you think that this affected their momentum at all? Because we haven't seen Bruno compete at all since 2019 Worlds, right?
Well, and Bruno is a specifically important example because of that, because we haven't seen Bruno at Pans or Brasileiros or the other, like he has not competed since 2019 Worlds.
Right.
There are some more veteran faces in here that have popped up once in a while, even if just on a super fight.
He did. He competed once. He had one match, 2020 IBJGF Europeans, the very beginning of 2020. Right. Oh, sorry, excuse me.
But there are plenty of athletes like that who have not competed in almost 2 years.
I mean, that is 2.5 years. Right. So yeah, that's 2. Yeah, that's 2 years, full 2 years since he last competed. There's a lot of momentum to lose. Whereas other guys, let's say like Cyborg, on the other hand, man, he competed 10 days ago in Las Vegas at Masters Worlds. Right. Took double gold in the Masters 2 division. So there are some guys who, of that elder kind of status, who are still, they've managed to stay pretty active. But there are others who haven't competed at all.
But 2 years is different from, of course, 1 year, right? But you look at guys like Bruno. Bruno typically competes maybe once a year. Right. 2018 Worlds, 2019 Worlds. It's not entirely out of the question for somebody at that caliber to compete once a year. But how much difference does the additional 1.5 years make?
It could be a lot. Could be a lot indeed. Yeah, there aren't that many, like I said, really kind of established veterans. There are definitely guys who you're very familiar with when you just scan the divisions, but we're still waiting to see if any of those bigger names will come in, or whether they will have used that 2.5 years since the last World Championships to, as you described, Lucas Lepri, to bow out gracefully and simply decide, okay, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to prove anything else. I'm going to move on to other things in my life. So it could happen. All right, moving on. The next topic that I want to discuss here about Worlds is this featherweight division, man. This featherweight division is absolutely wild, okay? The featherweight division for me is always one of the most entertaining and dynamic divisions to watch, right? That's pretty much agreed upon by most people. However, this year, I would also argue that it's one of the most competitive, right?
Yeah, it's stacked, and we're looking at several world champions as well as pan champions, as well as just athletes we love to watch for their jiu-jitsu.
Contenders,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's already got 23 big names in it, but I imagine it's still growing.
Let's bring up this this graphic right. Oh, there it is. You can see it. Okay, so these are 8 front runners, let's call it. 8 contenders, 8 notable names that we've decided to highlight when discussing the featherweight division. And as you mentioned, 23 currently signed up, so by no means exclusive. But top row, left to right. So you can see there, Gabriel Souza, who has just had an incredible year, took silver at the IBJGF Pans, has had lots of success, both gi and no gi, and is just as game as they come. This guy just loved to fight. Next to him, of course, Mateus Gabriel, Mateus, the 2019 IBJJF World Champion, confirmed to us a couple of days ago that yes, he will be returning to the Featherweight Division, and he is signed up in the Checkmark Black Belt, coming to defend his title and try and become a two-time World Champion. Isaac Töderlein. Man, Isaac has hit that podium at Worlds, but has come close, but never quite managed to realize that dream. But I feel like he could do some damage. And, of course, then next to him, Marcio Andre, with the Navy gi. Marcio,
another multiple-time silver medalist.
Silver medalist, right? He hit that final so many times, come so close. This is the year that he'll be looking to change that. Bottom row, who we got?
Fabricio Andre, this might be his first. It will be his first Worlds as a black belt, but he looked outstanding at Pans and really in every competition he's been in this year.
Took bronze in Pans, losing to Jamil Hill in the semifinals in a tight match, and Jamil had to bust out some serious tricks, some serious lasso weapons to kind of shut him down. But Fabricio Andre he's a firecracker, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. He's exciting to watch. He's got incredibly explosive jiu-jitsu. Thiago Macedo, 2020 Pans gold medalist, and absolutely just difficult style to crack. Right, he knows how to get up and stay up.
Something of a dark horse, I would argue, but capable of beating anybody if you take him lightly. Of course, Jamil Hill, 2018 featherweight champion, looking to do the double as well. Now, he missed 2019 World Championships due to appendicitis. Literally, sickness in the hospital the week of the tournament. You couldn't write it. Really, really heartbreaking kind of turn of events. But this year bounced back, took gold in the Pan Championships just a couple of months ago here and looked phenomenal in the process. Definitely a very, very strong favorite front runner to make it through to the final. And then next to him is Sam Nagai, a teammate of Mateus Gabriel and a guy who's just been on a meteoric rise, huh?
Yeah, he really, for me, he made his first burst onto the scene 2020 Pans when he put up 21 points or something like that on Isaac Töderlein, and since then has really just been finding his home in the featherweight division.
Yeah, so really strong, and that is by no means an exclusive list. There are a ton of other very, very good competitors signed up, and names are appearing by the day as well. This is what we love about this phase right now. We keep hitting refresh on the list of registrations for Worlds, keep checking those divisions, because every day one or two names will sneak in there, and we get a little more excited every time as we get closer and closer. Okay, next big topic, man. A legend of the sport has told us that this is his last outing at the IBJJF World Championships as an adult black belt. Shanji Hibero, 7-time world champion. For me, one of the very best to ever do it. And I'm not just talking about Worlds, I'm talking about jiu-jitsu full stop. Of the last 2 decades, this man's career has just been nothing short of exceptional. ADCC champion, IBJGF world champion. He has won pretty much everything there is to win, and he has broken many records in the process. As I mentioned, a 7-time world champion. He's going to go for a possible 8th. Who knows if he does absolute as well, but going to go for one last run at the gold medal here at Worlds. And he told us this himself just a couple of weeks ago. Play this clip and you'll hear the man himself give the news.
About my retirement, it's just a retirement for the World Championships. I've been fighting the World Championships since blue belt 1997, and it's time to step away from that specific organizations. And I didn't want to just announce a retirement, but I'll be on the mats in Anaheim doing my last match.
Wow, well, there you have it, man. It's kind of sad to hear because, I mean, you look at Shanji, right, and he just looks ready to go, you know? You kind of forget that he's like 40 years of age now, right? Because he can still go out there and mix it up with the young guys, but it's probably a smart move at this point. I mean, what else does he have to prove, right?
He's been competing at the professional at the highest level for longer than most of these people have been doing jiu-jitsu. For longer than a lot of the people in the black belt and brown belt divisions have been alive.
Yeah, great point, man. Great point. Yeah, he really has. Yeah, Shanji is a legend. We'll be sad to see him go, but it'll be bittersweet. He'll be able to watch a legend kind of, you know, sort of bow out. Let's just hope that it's a happy ending to that illustrious career. Okay, so more news about who's in for the World Championships. The Ruatolo brothers back in the gi for the first time in a long time. So I'm thinking about it. The last time I remember seeing Cade Ruatolo in the gi was 2019. And the last time I remember seeing Ty Ruatolo in the gi was February
2020.
2020 at our very first ever Who's Number One FloGrappling event. That is a long time. Those kids have been very busy since, but almost all exclusively no gi. Man, they're coming back to the gi. What do you think about that?
I'm really interested in what their very iconic, very diverse style is going to look like. Are we going to see the same way they play? The way they play is kind of open end, very no-gi friendly, but also impossible to really see what's about to happen, right? It's so different from what you think of when you think of gi jiu-jitsu, and I really just can't wait to see if they reinterpret the way that gi looks for us.
So basically what you're saying is, what kind of crazy shit are they going to do at Worlds, right?
Exactly.
They're going to turn up, they're going to have something that they've been working on in the garage, in the lab, right? And they're going to turn up and they're going to do something and we're going to go, whoa, just like they've done every time that they come out and they compete no gi for us. And I think you're right. I'm super excited for the fact that they're coming back. And, this is amazing. I love seeing these guys jump between the two styles. But, I was so excited when I just even heard them say that they were going to compete. And we have a little interview snippet with both guys. Let's hear what they have to say, because you can just hear the excitement in their voice. Play the clips.
For sure. I know my professor really wants me to, and I want to, too. I haven't been training as much gi, so I'm thinking maybe... I want to do the Worlds for sure. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to do it. I know I haven't, said anything yet about doing it, but I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go to Costa Rica, take some time off, and then go from there to Worlds. Just do it straight from the jungle. I'm not going to train too much in the gi, but we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. It's been a while, so I'll be stoked to put the gi back on. Worlds, yeah. So that was another topic me and my brother have been kind of on the cusp and discussing a lot. We haven't been training too much gi. Obviously, we've been doing so much no gi and just have camp after camp no gi. But our heart is still in the gi, So we'll see. We've literally done zero training for it, but I think we're gonna go to Costa Rica and just send it and just see how we do.
Just send it. I love it. They're just going to go to Costa Rica. They're going to beat each other up for a couple of weeks in the gi, and then they're just going to turn up at Worlds, man. I love it. They're so game, but I love how they, they took Andre Galvao's call to action very seriously. They're like, yeah, you need us? We're in. They just, boom, they're down. Gameness. It's fantastic. So that's it for our kind of Worlds preview so far, but we have many other stories in today's episode that connected to Worlds, and we'll discuss the first of these now, Dream Art, okay? So, for some of you may be wondering who or what is Dream Art. Dream Art is the name of a team based in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and they are an absolute powerhouse. Now, they only split away and became an independent team in the last couple of months. Up until very recently, Dream Art were a part of Alliance, spearheaded by team captain Isaac Bayens, a two-time, an IBJGF world champion who has represented Alliance since purple belt in his career, or blue or purple belt. And basically what they did was they created a high-performance training environment where they gave a place to live. They gave everything from strength conditioning, nutrition, all kinds of supplementary support, in addition to English lessons, access to college courses, the whole deal. This was a professionally run sports team, pretty unique in jiu-jitsu. And what they did was they gathered together talent from all over Brazil, some from Alliance, some leaving other smaller independent teams to come join to be part of this squad. And they got some big names, like Bia Mesquita is there training right now. Patrick Gaudio joined the team after defecting from GF team. And then you also have the Muniz brothers and many others. The list of names that they're going to be sending to Worlds is incredible. But throw up this picture, because this gives you an indication of who these guys are and the success that they're able to achieve. Corey, who we got here?
I'm looking at Eric Muniz, Isaac Bayens. I'm having a hard time. Is that Bia Mesquita in the middle? That is. And on the left is Ana Rodriguez.
Correct. And then the colored medals, silver for Yara Suarez and Lucas Gualberto, and the bronze medal. So this was the team, not the entire team. This is just some of the team that they sent to the very recent Abu Dhabi World Pro, just last week in Abu Dhabi. And, well, the picture right there says it all, right? 4 title belts, 4 champions, and then a silver and a bronze. These guys, they go to win, all right? And they are bringing together a very, very powerful team for the World Championships. Now, there was a question about who would be able to go, because with all the travel restrictions then just recently being lifted, it opened the door for a bunch of these guys to finally make it into the United States. However, there was an issue in that a bunch of them, their visas had expired, and there was problems getting the appointments at the consulate to be able to renew their visas. Luckily, they've been able to resolve these issues, and we can tell you right now, Isaac Bayens himself texted me this list. They are sending, this is just black belts: Isadora Cristina, Bia Mesquita, Ana Rodriguez, and Yara Suarez in the women's divisions. 4 extremely strong candidates to all take gold in their respective divisions. Then, in the men's divisions, you've got Mayram Makinen, Lucas Carvalho, Isaac himself, Mauricio Oliveira, Alex, Eric, and Anderson Muniz, the 3 Muniz brothers, and Patrick Gaudio. But then, the last name is the best for me, because this was the most exciting. Now, we knew that he had been based in Sao Paulo, training at the team for some time, but we weren't sure if he was an official representative of the team, and that is Nicholas Murgali.
Two-time world champion Nicholas Murgali?
Two-time new world champion Nicholas Murgali. So this is a huge news because his name literally appeared on the list of competitors at Worlds today. But Nicholas Murgali has signed up in the ultra heavyweight division representing Dream Art. The ultra heavyweight division. Now, Murgali has competed at both heavy and super heavy in his career. The first time we've seen him enter the ultra heavyweight division. He's by no means the biggest man in that division. I think he's sitting around, it's about 224, 225 is kind of the weight class. He says he's about 101, 102 kilos. He's been working hard to pack on that weight. But Murgali, play this clip because you will see why people are so excited to watch him compete. He is one of the most dangerous, he is one of the most aggressive, and one of the most clinical submission hunters in all of jiu-jitsu. This guy, he has the kind of precise jiu-jitsu that, you know, fans love to watch him compete. But, big but, is that Murgali has been incredibly inconsistent over the last year or so of his career. And who knows exactly what those issues are. He's quite an enigmatic character. He doesn't give a lot away. And he's a very intense competitor, as you can see. But when he competes, he comes to bring it. Now, if he hasn't been enjoying success in his career, the questions over why, we'll probably never find out the answers. But one thing we can say is that if there were any issues with his training and his preparation, that moving to Dream Art should have answered those questions and should have given him solutions for those problems.
Absolutely. One thing about the room, just the list of names you just read off, is you can't take it easy in that room and that training. I think any level of training with that group of individuals is going to make you better, and especially somebody like Murgali who feeds off other people's energy. That's going to bring him back to the best Murgali that we've seen back in 2019, back in 2017.
I mean, that was peak Nicholas Murgali, right? That's when he broke onto the scene. He won his world medals. 2017, 2019 was the years that he took gold. And of course, don't forget that he's hit the podium in both, you know, the absolute division as well as the weight class as well. So very accomplished, very strong contender for gold in that division as well, because the ultra heavyweight division it's got some big names in it, really big names in it. Luis Panzer, Cyborg, Max Jimenez, Wallace Costa, and Victor Hugo. So one match that I'm particularly looking forward to seeing is a rematch, because Victor Hugo beat Nicholas Murgali on our first Who's Number One event, very beginning of 2020. In, some may say, a bit of an upset as well. Victor will be like, nah, man, that wasn't an upset. I knew he was going to win, right? But he did it. And that's what counts. Victor is also eyeing that gold medal at the World Championships, as we mentioned. So a potential showdown right there. I'd love to see it. Hopefully it takes place in the final. But Dream Art in general, man, these guys, they've got a a real strong chance at taking the team trophy, right? Explain to us, what is the team trophy and how does it work through the competition?
So throughout IBJJF Worlds, all of the winners get assigned points, so that at every belt level it's kind of rated. But the team winner is the team with the best performance throughout the tournament.
So that paints, it's like when you look at the Olympics and you see the medal table, right? You see USA versus China. USA have got X amount of golds, X amount of silver, X amount of bronze. It's kind of comparable, right? So it's like which team sort of like scores the most medals and points for each medal, and then at the end of the tournament, that's all tallied up, and trophy is given to the first, second, and third place teams, right? So historically, over the last 10 years, one team has dominated the IBJJF World Championships, and that is Alliance. One team was able to crack that dominance, and that was Atos, was able to take the team trophy 1 year in the last decade. But DreamArt legitimately could win that, not just make the podium, but they could feasibly win the trophy, right?
Yeah, looking at the squad they're sending, I mean, they could at least hit the podium, but potentially take gold in almost every weight category at black belt, and that would do a lot to sway the team rankings.
And don't forget that the DreamArt, they were part of Alliance. So Alliance will be losing a large amount of their competitors and could potentially really suffer when it comes to the team trophy, because they may not be able to field a stronger team as before. We may not even see them hit the podium.
Yeah, losing all that strength and losing especially somebody like Murgali, who is, a high chance competitor to win to win gold or to hit the podium, but losing several athletes like that. The one thing that for me is kind of a concern with DreamArt's opportunity at a world at a team trophy contention is there may be lack of color belts, but
right,
with as many black belts as could finish first in their division here, that might nullify some of that.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right. Well, we're excited to see DreamArt arrive at the World Championships in just a couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up with them before the big tournament as well, when they land here in Southern California, or they land there in Southern California. Okay. Next big story, let's recap one of the coolest events coming out of the UK, and that is GrappleFest. Went down last weekend, GrappleFest 10. Some interesting results. We saw Cade Ruatolo, Ty Ruatolo, Pierre Leclerc all take the wins there. Cade was able to beat Keith Krikorian. Ty Ruatolo beat Nick Ronan, and Pierre Leclerc was able to beat Dina Bukale, I believe is how you pronounce his name. But main event, Dante Leon versus Oliver Taza in an all-Canadian showdown, right? Province versus province. I'm sure there was no heat there, right? But joking aside, this was for the 80-kilogram title belt. But Dante found out after the fact that it was actually for an interim title. Now play this clip, because Dante was not all too happy about being given the interim title. Play this clip.
I don't know why the fuck this belt says interim. I've fought 3 times against top 10 guys. I've been top 4 for over 4 years. I mean, since 2018, I've been number 3 or 4 in the world. I've never dropped below that. Lachlan Giles has had the belt. He hasn't defended it in a really, really long time. So I don't want to talk any shit to Lachlan. Lachlan deserves to have the belt. I get it. But if you don't defend it, you have to vacate it. I know things are tough in New Zealand and Australia right now, but I'm putting some pressure on Lachlan. I'm putting some pressure on Chris. Next fight has to be against Lachlan, or he's got to vacate the belt and I get the belt. That's what interim means. I'm the standing champion as long as the champ's not here. That was supposed to be a year ago. A lot of things happen in the world, so that fight's got to happen. Stat.
I love it. Dante with the very direct call out. And of course, there's no animosity towards Lachlan Giles, right? But Dante's like, hey, I'm ranked, Lachlan's not. I'm here competing, Lachlan is not. Now, Lachlan, through no fault of his own, happens to live in a country with some of the most severe travel restrictions in place. They've been through extended periods of lockdown where he wasn't even able to go to the gym. He wasn't even able to go for a walk around the block, let alone go to the gym and train jiu-jitsu. Australia's crazy like that, right? And he wasn't able to travel. He wasn't able to compete like many of other people have done. And add in the fact that he's just had welcomed a baby into his family as well. So his maybe focus is elsewhere. He's building his business. He's building his gym. What do you think? Should he vacate the belt?
Dante is not focused on anything else. Dante's focused on winning and competing. He's looked phenomenal on Grapple Fest. In his last 3 matches, he's 3-0. This, of course, being the first one in almost a year. But yeah, he wants to move forward, and I think it's up to Lachlan to either give him the fight, which sounds probably unlikely, or to let Dante continue defending that belt.
So what do you think? Do you think that Lachlan... number one, do you think that Lachlan has a shot? Do you think if Lachlan was to come back, knowing all that of what he's gone through, do you think it would even possible for him to go and to beat Dante and retain that title?
I would love to see that match. I think, given the circumstances, probably not likely to happen. I think Lachlan would be the first one to say that he's probably feeling a little ill prepared for this match. But a match I would love to see, whether Grapple Fest or hopefully ADCC or whenever. That's a great matchup for me.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think that personally, I think that Dante is definitely, deserves the title of champion. Love to see the match with Lachlan happen at some point, but if not, and if it's unable to take place, then give that man his belt, give that man the title. But we'll see. Number 4 in the world for a reason. Cool. Okay, ADCC news. Man, ADCC, they've actually just announced Mo Jassim, the 2022 ADCC World Championship promoter, has put together something really cool. Basically, for the first time in history, the ADCC will be inducting champions from over the nearly 25 years of history that they have into a Hall of Fame. And they did so with the very first inductee was Roger Gracie. And I think that nobody has any qualms about that whatsoever, right? Take a look at this really as well, because this is really cool. We have like a kind of animated piece of artwork about Roger Gracie right here. You can see 2005 double gold champion, 2007 super fight. But he did something that nobody else has ever done, right?
Yeah, who else would you induct first into the Hall of Fame other than the only athlete ever to win all 8 matches in his double gold performance by submission?
That is incredible. He's the only person in ADCC history to have done that. And that is why I think he was the first person to be announced as a Hall of Famer. I think that's phenomenal. I don't think anybody has any issues with that whatsoever. It's actually great news and honors a true legend of the sport. But that's the first Hall of Fame name that's been released. There is another, of course, and that is Andre Galvao. And Andre Galvao, well, this guy, a 4-time super... You got another one right here. Let's play this. There you go. 4-time super fight champion. And, of course, don't forget that he won double gold in 2011, winning the weight and absolute there. Andre Galvao. Any issue with that?
No, of course not. He's teed up for a 5th super fight on top of his several gold performances at ADCC. Another one of the best to ever do it. And
most successful super fight champion in history.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nobody else ever defended it or fought in more than 2, I believe. Or defended it more than twice.
Nobody else has ever fought in more than 2.
Wow, there you go. So Andre has had that super fight title since 2013 when he won it from Braulio Estima in Beijing, China. That is phenomenal. Defended it, of course, against Cyborg in 2015, against Carlos Sanz in 2017, and against Felipe Pena in 2019, knocking off one by one to retain that title. Andre Galvao, the second person to be inducted into the ADCC Hall of Fame. You can play this highlight just as we talk about this as well, because I think it's really cool that ADCC have taken this initiative. And here's a question I have, actually. It's a little bit about who else deserves to go into the ADCC Hall of Fame. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to divide this up, right? There are Hall of Fame worthy just because of their victories and their performances, so Galvao and Roger Gracie. But then, excuse me, Hall of Fame worthy because of single standouts. We were talking about Lachlan. I think you know, a one-off might not be worth a Hall of Fame, but for me, that's a Hall of Fame moment.
That's interesting. Personally, I think back to ADCC history, and I think that there are some guys who had incredible contributions to the sport. I'm thinking about guys like Mark Kerr, who was the first real pure wrestler to come in, and he was an ADCC absolute champion, super fight champion. I feel like Mark Kerr deserves to be inducted. Don't forget, of course, Ricardo Arona, who was able to win ADCC gold without ever conceding a single point against him. That is incredible. I'd also like to see some of the early ADCC champions, you know, the first guys to go out there and win gold. I'm thinking of, you know, the very first runners. You'll go back to the very, very beginning, the 1997 kind of champions. And who do you have there? I mean, you have guys like, 1998. You have like Soka, you know, Henzo Gracie, Mario Sperry, you know, the first ever double gold champion. These are guys who absolutely deserve to be in the ADCC Hall of Fame. And I'm excited to see who else they will announce.
Of course, another standout for me is Marcelo Garcia.
I mean, of course, you know, how could you leave Marcelo out, man? That guy pretty much Mr. ADCC. Yeah, no, phenomenal. Okay, we got a little bit of quick hits for news to hit before we do get out of here. We got some news that we want to move through, and I think that we should start off. We should discuss the fact that the Mikey Lock has struck again, twice. Lightning does strike twice. Play this video because Mikey. He entered a local tournament in Southern California, a Jiu-Jitsu World League, and he scored not one but two Mikey Locks.
Looks like it might not be much more than him just kind of practicing this in the gym, right? It's you know, Mikey wants to develop this into something formidable. He wants to show how devastating it is, and really putting it out in a local competition is a great way to get those reps in. Yeah,
I mean, you know, Mikey's he's keen to, you know, further this idea that, hey, the Mikey Lock is not just a knee bar, it's not just a heel hook variation, it's an original creation, it's something that he developed over time. And I think the best way to just further associate yourself with a technique is to go out there and just keep using it and tapping people out. And, you know, ultimately as well, he wants to pressure test it against live opponents. He wants to get as many reactions and counterattacks to that as he possibly can so that he can develop a foolproof system for it.
Yeah, it seems like that's something he's been working really adamantly on, is building the system to this, and live rounds, live training and competition is a great way to do it.
The next up of the news is Melky Galvao. So, the Fight Sports coach, he owns the Fight Sports gym in Manaus, has he's been on a roll as of late. Melky Galvao takes 4 black belts to gold at the World Pro recently. Play this little clip because we got a highlight here of some of the biggest moments. And man, these guys, they're looking unstoppable, Corey.
Yeah, Brenda Larissa looked phenomenal. Diego Hayes looked great. Mikey Galvao, of course, had a number of submissions in his road to gold. For me, one of the biggest standouts was Nathaniel Fernandez. He had gotten his black belt 2 weeks before this event and went through a who's who, Talos and Soares,
Jonas Andrade,
Talos and Soares, just a number of top-level black belts, former world champions and world silver medalists, and looked outstanding.
Yeah, man, there is something in the water in Manaus, right? We've said this before, say it again. There is Nathaniel Fernandez in the blue gi, on his way to victory in the 56 kilogram division. As you mentioned, only got his black belt a couple of weeks prior to the tournament, and yet didn't stop him from going head to head with the best in the world. And I want to know, you know, it's like Melky has been long associated with the success of his son Mika, right? And Mika is a special talent indeed. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. He's one of the most exciting and one of the most dynamic competitors in that 77 kilo division. And yet, he's not the only guy to be coming out of that gym. So the question is like, what is it that Melky Galvao is doing different? How is he producing athletes such as Diogo Hayes that we're watching right here in the white gi on the way to gold medal? What is it that Melky is doing that is creating such formidable jiu-jitsu warriors? I really want to know.
Yeah, I would love to find out exactly the way they're training, the way they're approaching competition, because they every one of these competitors it comes out of seemingly nowhere and takes out some of the best in the world. Look at Diego Hayes, another great example. He went through Marin Alves in one of the first rounds to even qualify for the tournament.
Yeah, that Brazil qualifier tournament in World Pro is nuts. And then here's the big one, of course. It is Mikael, scoring a submission win over Espen Mathisen in the final of the 77 kilogram division. As you can see here, countering Espen's guard, Espen's berimbolo, with a very tight ankle lock that was able to force the submission. And Mikey Galvao, that is his first Abu Dhabi World Pro as a black belt, and he takes the gold. I'm sure the first of many, to be honest. And many of you may be asking why he's not competing at IBJGF World Championships. The truth is that he cannot until 2022, because he is currently still under the IBJJF time served regulations, not eligible to compete as a black belt. But come January, you will be able to see him compete, and I'm sure that he'll be taking more names out in the process. But yeah, Melky Galvao's team doing phenomenal things there. And I think it's really cool as well to note that those 4 athletes, they went back home to Brazil with a combined $40,000 in prize money. Each of the champions won $10,000, taking home $40K. I hope they took Melky out for dinner after that.
I hope so.
All right, so upcoming events. We got a couple here on FloGrappling. Don't forget World Championships. You can watch that December 9th through 12th. Here on FloGrappling, exclusively on FloGrappling. We'll be streaming every match from every mat over the space of that tournament. And it's not all, though. We have some jiu-jitsu coming up this weekend. So we have 3 events this weekend. We have Fight to Win 189. In the main event, you got Junior Ocasio versus Iago George. And you also have Michael Liera Jr. versus PJ Barch in a no-gi match. Interesting.
Yeah, both great matches, I think. There's no bad jiu-jitsu from PJ. I think, especially in that format, we get to see a lot of great wrestling. And against Liera, a guard player, could be a really interesting matchup.
And then Emerald City Invitational goes down this weekend, December 4th. This is a 185-pound tournament, 16 competitors, and it's an EBI rules tournament. Now, this goes down in New Jersey. And they have managed to assemble a really strong list of competitors, not just from the local area, but from all over the United States, Corey.
Yeah, what we're looking at, a lot of maybe even top-ranked middleweights. John Blank, Dante Leon, Giancarlo Bodoni, Oliver Taza, a couple of maybe more wild cards, right? Guys like Sean Yadamarco, Alan Sanchez, and a couple of qualifier winners. I had a qualifier over at Finishers this past weekend. Mateo Martinez won that one with 3 submissions in 4 matches, and the runner-up, the second place winner, Steve Casson, is also getting in. Nice.
Yeah, this 16-man tournament's actually looking pretty loaded. Did you mention you got those ranked competitors, the ones who have the bigger names like Thor, like Dante, like Giancarlo, who all have had great success recently. Giancarlo, of course, qualifying for ADCC by winning the recent East Coast Trials. Taza, an ADCC veteran, also a trials winner over there in Europe. But then you've got some guys who are kind of right on the cusp and poised for a breakthrough moment, right? Mm-hmm. Talking about Nick Ronan, who just went the distance against Ty Ruatolo at Grapplefest last weekend. Isaac Mitchell, the Australian, training here in Austin, Texas at the B team with Craig Jones. And then, as you mentioned, Yadamarco, who is a local. I'm sure he'll be bringing plenty of support there. He's based at Immortals Jiu-Jitsu in New Jersey. And Alan Sanchez, the 10th Planet competitor. And let's not forget as well, we've got 2 cool names in there as well that I always like watching compete. Isaiah Wright and John Combs. 2 very exciting submission hunters who have had a lot of success on Fight to Win in their careers. John Combs, also an ADCC Trials winner in the past. And I'm sure that they're looking to do big things here at Emerald City Invitational. 385-pound tournament. Watch that December 4th here on FloGrappling. And then the final event that we should just mention will be Grapple Kings on December 5th. And this goes down in Ireland. This is another European event. We were thin on details about this up until very recently, but we've been told that the main event of Grapple Kings is Ashley Williams versus Robert Deagle in a lightweight match. And Ashley Williams, of course, is the ADCC 66 kilogram trials winner in Poland very recently. Had a great performance there. Really, really nice jiu-jitsu. I think out of 6 matches, he had like 5 submissions or something like that. It was very impressive. And Deagle's been making a name for himself as something of a leg lock expert.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a mean leg lock setup. He really likes his inside Sakaku setups, and he's got just a very formidable game in that position, and really throughout jiu-jitsu, throughout the back control, upper body attacks.
A lot of quick finishes in his career, but Ashley Williams, probably one of the most accomplished and toughest competitors that he will have faced. So interested to see how that goes. That, of course, is the headlining match. There are many other matches to be caught on that event. This goes down in Portlaoise in Ireland. That's just a couple of miles outside of Dublin, Ireland. And you can watch that December 5th here on FloGrappling. Don't miss it. Grapple King 6 coming up this weekend. So the last thing that we want to leave you with for today's episode is the trailer for our Buchecha documentary, which will drop on Thanksgiving. That's this Thursday. The Buchecha documentary has been almost 2 years in the making, and we are telling the story, one of the greatest stories in jiu-jitsu, the most accomplished IBJGF champion in history, 13-time gold medalist. He could have had more, but he was literally giving medals away at one point, closing out and being, don't worry, you can take this one. What a man. But an incredible story, not the story that you may think either. I was lucky because I was actually part of the production process. I was able to go to Brazil. I was able to meet Buchecha's family. I was able to go see him training MMA at an American top team. So I've been part of this from the very beginning, this project. I'll be honest, I learned things about Buchecha during this process that I had no idea about. I didn't realize the situation that he came from. I didn't realize kind of how humble his background was. I didn't realize the difficulties and the adversities that he passed through in his earlier career. Because for me, as is probably the case for a majority of people, I always just knew Buchecha the champion. I always knew that fully formed monster, the ultra dominant, the guy who just ruled the IBJJF Absolute Division for a decade. The only times that he didn't win gold were the year that he blew his knee out midway through the tournament and the year that he gave away the gold medal to Leandro Lee. From 2012 to 2019, undefeated in the Absolute Division, incredible. And I always just thought, yeah, you know, the all-conquering destroyer that is Buchecha, he must have always been like that. The opposite is true, and you will find out all the details to that story come November 25th. This Thanksgiving, first episode of 2. A 2-part film series will drop. The next episode comes out the following week. Let's play this trailer. We'll close out the show, and we'll see you next week for another edition of Grappling Bulletin. Take it easy.
When I rolled with Buchecha first time, I never had that feeling that this guy is gonna be the next world champion. Never. The very first tournament that he coming to compete in America, he won double gold. Nobody did what he did on the World Championship. Think that will be his legacy.
He is extremely talented and someone who has a heart of a lion.
I think Jiu-Jitsu will remember Buchecha as one of the greatest heavyweights in Jiu-Jitsu history.
His legacy as an athlete it's amazing.
You don't see guys that big move that well. And even as a kid, you could see there was something special about him.
14 world titles together. Like, it was on a point that he was donating absolute titles.
It's more important to be a good person than it is to be a good jiu-jitsu player.
And I feel like that's the reason why he's kind of walking away from it, because he's getting bored.
I always put my 100%, even with my family, with my friends. It doesn't matter how much money you make or how much titles you get or who you become in the sport. Jiu-Jitsu gave me the freedom to live where I want, to go where I want to go. It's my joy, it's my love, it's my passion. If I made it, everyone can do it. That's the message that I want to give to people. Always believe.